Good evening, and welcome to the 2026 Associated Students of Colorado State University Presidential Debate. My name is Allie, Siebel, and I am a Democracy Fellow for the Strayer Center for Public Service Leadership and the Editor-in-Chief of the Rocky Mountain Collegian, and I will be moderating tonight's debate. Before we begin, I would like to emphasize some ground rules for the debate. For our candidates, please be respectful to your other candidates when answering questions and do not make any accusations of your fellow candidates. Please keep in mind that Article 10, Section 6 of the ASCSU Elections Code enumerates that candidates must not make false statements or communicate in a manner that defames any other candidate. Please refrain from using explicit language and follow the CSU Code of Ethics. For tonight's debate, every candidate will get 90 seconds to answer my question. If you go over that allotted time, your mic will be muted and I will cut you off. There will also be an opportunity for the audience to ask questions. If you have a question for the audience, you may line up at this mic stand. I will let you know when to begin lining up. We will allow audience questions near the end of the debate where you may ask one question, but please keep in mind some ground rules. Please be respectful to the candidates when asking a question and do not make any accusations about any candidates. Please refrain from using explicit language and please do not disclose any personal information you may have about a candidate as this is a professional debate. Now that I have gone through the rules of tonight's debate, let's begin. With me on stage are Jakye Nunley, Victoria Quesada-Stoner, and Estevan Vega, our candidates for president. Welcome, everyone. To begin, tell us about yourselves briefly. Mr. Nunley, we will begin with you, moving down the line to Ms. Quesada-Stoner, and then Mr. Vega. You have 90 seconds for this opening statement.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Jakye Nunley, and I currently serve as your CSU Student Body President. Tonight, I'm before you, thank you. Tonight, I'm before you running as your Student Body President, and it's such a great honor. It's incredible to be on this platform, sharing stages, and sharing stages with some amazing folks at that. But aside from this, though, I'd like to talk about what me and Abraham Apatano are running on today. A little bit about me is that I am from Aurora, Colorado, so I am a Colorado native, and the program that brings me to CSU is the Black Issues Forum, a program started by our Black African American Cultural Center. I am a heavily involved student on campus, and I believe that to know me is to know that there is not a student I don't believe I can relate to. And I think that there's so much commonality in our experience, and that when we show up in spaces, that there is so much room for shared experience, shared values, and better yet, value alignment. And that's one of the most unique things about CSU. And it's a luxury to be in a place like this, with people like this. And me and Abraham run on just that, this idea of humanization and what it means to be supported by your peers, what it means to have the resources to be in community with the folks who you want to be in community with. It's integral, to show up at a community, at a CSU, where you can shape the experiences and lay the tracks of what will be your next 4 years, 5 years, and possibly higher than that, right? That's the CSU that we envision, and we'll talk more about that today, but I'm excited to pass the floor over because we have some incredible people up here. Thank you.
Hola, y gracias por estar aquí esta noche. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. My name is Victoria Quesada-Stoner, and one of the reasons why I am running for Student Body President is because I believe in this university. Students are the heart of this university, and it does not run without them. And one of the things, sorry guys, one of the things that I really love about CSU is the culture. I have met so many incredible people here. It truly has been an honor to grow. I was not super involved freshman year. Sophomore year, I got more involved through being the president, co-president of the Body Project. Megan, if you're watching this, hi. I was raised by a single mother, and she taught me resilience. She taught me to care. She taught me to connect with people on a deeper level, not just on what titles they have, but every single person that I meet, I truly want to help them in any type of way that I can. I believe that this is crucial in being student body president. Because if you're not for the students, if you're not for the people, then you can't really have their voice in any of the conversations that you're in. Yeah, I will yield my time.
Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you so much to CTV for moderating and hosting us tonight. We really appreciate it, and I'm so wonderful to be joined with Jakye and Victoria, as well as everyone in the stands. My name is Estevan Vega, and I'm a third-year biology major, and I am running for ASCSU president. Look, let me be clear. I come from Alamosa, Colorado, 5 hours south of here in an extremely rural town. College was never just a guarantee for me. It's something that I had to work so hard to get every single day and reach out with arms fully extended because I know how difficult it is. And that's something that I know that a lot of students here at CSU share. And that means something to me. That is extremely valuable to me. So when I knew that I was coming to CSU, when I first stepped foot here, I knew that I wanted to be something so much bigger than just myself. I wanted to do something that was so much more than just my legacy, more than the titles that I would hold, and really affect people's lives, students' lives. That's exactly why I joined ASCSU. Because I know that organization has so much potential. It has so much ability to change the lives of every single person in here. It has the ability to make those fundamental changes at the base foundation so that you can build upon that and create such a strong student body where everyone is uplifted and everyone understands and knows that they have a place here at CSU just like I did 3 years ago. I want to make sure that everyone knows that at the base of the Vega Hill campaign, we work for you. Whether you end up voting for us or not, if we're elected, we promise that we will work for you in every single way, just like ASCSU has always done.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here.
All right, thank you, everyone. Moving on, please tell us why you are running to be the next ASCSU president. This time, we will begin with you, Estevan.
Thank you so much. Truthfully, the reason why I decided to run for ASCSU president is because I know that we need new perspectives. We know that we need a new face in ASCSU. It's time that the dynasty ends. It's time that a new face of leadership steps into power because we understand what students want and students need, and they're not getting that. They deserve better. We know that. Additionally, we also know that ASCSU has so much potential. It's why I joined in the first place. I know not just the organization, but the individuals within it have so much potential to change lives, to change the foundation on which our university has been built upon. And that starts with ASCSU, and truth be told, running for ASCSU president was a no-brainer, and I am so excited to take this role. Thank you.
I am running for student body president because I do truly believe in ASCSU. I joined ASCSU last March, actually, and I was in the executive branch for diversity, equity, and inclusion as an intern. With all of the federal things going on, we actually had to kind of take a pause in this role. So then I switched and I moved to the legislative branch, where I became a senator for natural sciences. Truly, that was one of the best decisions of my life. The community that I found there was like no other. It was not easy to get into ASCSU at first. It is kind of hard, but once you really start to find the people that will embrace you, who will teach you, who will want to actually be there in a way that truly was incredible. And that is why I want to be that person for every single student. I come from a place where community is at the center, and that is what a student body president is. They need to be there to not only communicate with higher up administration, but also advocate on so many different levels, on so many different issues. It truly is such an honor to be able to have communication with so many different people. But if you don't use it in a way that is truly for every single student, then you're marginalizing certain groups. You're not actually advocating for every single student. And with the free speech policy, that's what I saw. I did not get much feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This question is one that always catches me by surprise, simply because you never know just how ASCSU is going to greet you. And I, too, am a student. And what I can share with you today is that ASCSU has not been fair to me like it has been to many students. And I acknowledge that. And the steps to a better ASCSU really involve what ASCSU should be about, and that's the leadership. Because leadership in its purest form is a beautiful thing. Leadership when it is not about the power, leadership when it is not about the title, leadership when it is not about the rooms you will go to, leadership in its purest form is beautiful. And that's a belief that I've always had. I can tell you about every good leader I've had, and I can tell you about every bad leader I've had, and they've both impacted me. That's who I greet you as today. And so when joining ASCSU, God, it was a decision on a whim, but I'm glad that I did it, because when I got to ASCSU, I began working as soon as I got there. And the things that have been earmarked by just different roles that I have held in ASCSU are inconsequential to the relationships in the community that I have built throughout my tenure in different roles in ASCSU. And I say that with full confidence. I believe that it is important how you show up in spaces, how people believe that you can show up for them, and then also how they feel, the ability to reach out to you. I think that's imperative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Tell us specifically what you hope to achieve in your term as president, including any key issues that you intend to target. We will begin with Jakye.
In our term as president, I think that it is a shame that students are the largest stakeholder at this university and they are not represented with a voting seat on our Board of Governors. And so at the CSU system level, I think that it's imperative that we push for change to create a voting seat on that board. Right now, I serve as the advisory, I'm an advisory seat, but when we have decisions that need to go up to this board and somebody has to take a vote on that, students are not represented with the voting seat. I think that it is terrible, right, that we have decision makers on this campus who do not necessarily have the input and the feedback from students on a regular basis. And this is what Abraham was talking about when we said we want to implement administrator office hours, to make sure that students and administrators both get face time with each other to ask the burning questions and to challenge the way that we think, because that is how you create a campus that is better for all. Aside from that, we have a deep commitment, we have an unwavering commitment not only to our cultural resource centers and our culturally based groups on campus, but our students with marginalized identities. And furthermore, we have an unwavering commitment to our registered student organizations, fraternity and sorority life, and our student athletes, because these are all subsects of demographics of students who have different experiences that all intersect and do these same things. These groups have the same goals, and ASCSU needs to bolster the ways in which we support them, the way we uplift these groups, and the way we show up in these groups. Not how we mention them and how we say that this is what's happening in those spaces from a bird's eye view or from a third person point of view, because quite frankly, what I can say is that what I know about ASCSU space is that sometimes we're speaking on baseless claims that we know nothing about and we need to know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One of the slogans for our campaign is student government for all. And what I mean by that is that ASCSU has kind of been seen as a political org, which it is. But that does not mean that you need to be a poli-sci major or have a specific thing that you want to do within ASCSU. Your voice should be shown in ASCSU with every single thing. And so our big 4 points is transparency. Transparency on what the administration is doing, what the administration is saying whenever students are not agreeing with certain things, and how are they taking it into account. I agree that it needs to be done in a respectful manner, but whenever that respectful manner isn't getting listened to, I think asking hard questions and really holding accountability is essential to truly having student government for all. Food and housing security is one of the biggest issues on our campus. 1/3 of CSU RAMs are food insecure. That is unacceptable. That is truly unacceptable. Being hungry whenever you're trying to study for a test or when you're trying to do assignments is awful to do. You can't focus. You can't truly put in the work that you would want to have be done. Another thing that we're running off of is elevating student voices. There are over 150 student boards and committees that students can have a voice on. Currently, we do not know what students are serving on which boards or committees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Look, let me be clear. Out of the 3 candidates, I can promise you right now that the Vega Hill administration has the most real, actionable agenda. We're not going to sit up here and tell you and scream buzzwords at you. We have a real agenda that we plan to accomplish in office. And we have 3 main pillars in our campaign, and these pillars is what's going to guide us throughout our through our term. Them being affordability, advocacy, and the college experience. We know that affordability touches every single CSU student in some capacity or some way. And we kind of broke that down into 2 different parts, parking and housing. We know that parking here on campus is ridiculously expensive, with those of you who hold passes paying anywhere between $600 to $800 for a parking pass that isn't even necessarily guaranteed. When right down the interstate at CU Boulder, just as my vice president mentioned, they're paying $300 for the exact same parking pass. That is insane, and that is ridiculous. That needs to change, and under the Vega Hill administration, that will change. We plan to implement programs that will reduce costs for on-campus employees, like RAs, or soon to be known as CAs, as well as students who demonstrate financial need, because we truly understand the burden that that puts on every single one of you all here today. For example, when I was a freshman, I had to put that bill on my credit card because I don't just have $800 laying around. Additionally, when it comes to housing, this is something that truly affects a lot of CSU students around Fort Collins. This is something that we absolutely can get accomplished. We can go to your state legislator. We can lobby for the passage of a bill known as House Bill 261001 to make sure that we can rezone Fort Collins and increase the supply for housing. Thank you so much.
Sorry, for time purposes, we're not doing rebuttals tonight, but thank you for the question. All right, moving on. Estevan, you can keep the mic. In the past, ASCSU has struggled with student engagement. Mm-hmm. How do you hope to reach more students across campus?
Yeah, absolutely. This is an issue that is absolutely 100% a priority for the Vega Hill administration, and we understand it. As it currently stands, we know that ASCSU administrations have kind of just expected students to come to us, whether that's at an ASCSU affiliated event, where we expect students to come to us, whether that's at our office or the events we're putting on. Those days are gone. We need to understand that we need to meet students where they're at, whether that's in the library, the LSC, their classrooms, the dining halls, their residence halls, because when we actually truly understand what a student needs and what they deserve and what they want, we can take that and we can use that voice and be that voice for the collective student body, so that when we're in meetings with CSU Amy Parsons, President Amy Parsons, and the Board of Governors, that they understand what every single one of you guys wants, and that they are no longer making big decisions without each and every single one of your votes or voices. That is extremely important to us, because student government without student voice is absolutely nothing, and it means nothing. Thank you.
Student engagement at ASCSU has kind of fell flat. We saw this last year with a 3% vote, which it was an uncontested race, so we could also blame it on that fact. But I think it goes deeper. I think that students do want to have a voice in our student government. I have already been doing the work with that. I go out in every single, whether that's at college council or whether that's being a senator for natural sciences, I go out and I talk to students on what they want to see. Again, with the free speech resolution, I talked to so many different students about this. I educated them on the fact that the policy changed and then it got reinstated. This is things that I have already started doing. And my team, our executive branch team, will make sure that they want to go out and actually connect with students. Not just meeting them where they're at, but walking with them. Truly doing the work of wanting to be there for them. That does not come easy. Student engagement is not an easy matter, but I know that if we actually connect with students and be like, we want to hear your voice, then I know that students will actually want to be in ASCSU and be a part of it. When you're not listened once or twice, you're not going to come back a third time. And I think that is something that we need to address. We need to truly understand and listen to students and take actionable items from what they're requesting and giving it to the administration. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to echo Victoria because I like some of the things that you said. And what I'm going to say, though, is that I'm not going to tell you about what it could be, but I'm going to tell you about what is. And what student engagement looks like is when student leaders have your phone number, when student leaders know that they can reach you via email, via Instagram, when student leaders know that they can meet with you, when student leaders can catch you on campus and walk with you and have conversations. Student leaders do, believe it or not, have faith in their student government. This year, we have absolved an event from another student org. It's the formal committee that happens. This club didn't have the resources this semester to plan this event, and so they reached out to me in ASCSU to say, hey, is there something ASCSU can do about this? Can you guys take this on? I'm now planning formal committee. What I'll say, though, is that this is imperative because student leaders need to know that you are not only just their student body president, but their peer, and I think that's what is. That's what's happening. We show up in these spaces, and even when it's hard, and even when challenging conversations are present in those spaces, we show up. And to know me is to know that I'm not shying away from a hard conversation on a good day or a bad day, and that's the truth. And we show up for students. That's who I am. That's who Joseph is. And me and Joseph last year said that we were radically student-centered. That hasn't changed a day into our administration. We are radically student-centered, and we don't believe that there is nothing that students shouldn't be a part of or can't do. That is who I am through and through, and that is a call on my character that you cannot question. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you all for your time tonight. And if you are an audience member who would like to ask a question of our candidates, you may please begin lining up at this mic stand we have placed in the aisle. But before that, my final question to you all, as people begin lining up, is very simple. Why should students elect you? Jakye, we will begin with you.
Students should elect the Nunley and Mapatano campaign because it's marked by care. And it's marked by a plan not only for your now, but for your future. And we don't only care about what happens to you during this 4 years, but what happens to you the 4 years after that, and then the 8 years after that, and then the 12 years after that. I think that the best part about being in community with somebody is that you don't stop being in community with somebody. There's something so cool about coming from common places. There's a lot of folks in here right now who went to the same high school as me. I'm looking out in the audience, and it's really cool because as we're all in this space together, what I recognize is that we never stop being in community with each other. We just created different forms of how we engage with each other. The spaces look different. The people in the spaces look different. But engagement in being somebody's peer, being somebody's trusted community member, being in community in its purest form, just like leadership, is beautiful. And that is, unwavering. And that's what the Nunley Mapatano campaign is. You should vote for that because that is an unwavering commitment not only to your success now, but your success later. We believe in preparing you for your tomorrow today. That is who we are.
One thing I keep hearing is that we want to be in community and talking with only certain students. Student government is not meant for only certain students. It's meant for every single person. It's meant for people who have not gotten a chance to become leaders. It's supposed to be something that every single student is able to come up and truly be heard. Both Ben and I are truly committed to making sure that that happens. Again, we want transparency. We will help food and housing. We will truly make impacts in these areas. And we do have proper policies in place. And if you want to talk after this, I am more than happy to, because I truly want to connect and educate you guys about this campaign. I want you guys to vote for me because you guys believe in what me and Ben have been planning, not only for a couple weeks or anything, but for months. We truly want students to be a part of this conversation as well. That is why we also want to hear your student feedback. This campaign can change and is not completely fluid because we want to make sure that the core is students' input. Vote for me and Ben for change, not only on transparency, not only on what we're prioritizing, but also for elevating your guys' voices, because I promise you that we will do that. Thank you.
Let me break it down for you all. The Vega Hill administration is, at its core, we plan to bring costs down, and we plan to do that for every single student. We don't plan to just throw buzzwords at you. We don't plan to just throw empty promises at you, because that's the same rhetoric. We hear the same rhetoric year after year after year. That has to end. And I truly, truly believe, I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it, I truly believe that the Vega Hill administration is the only candidate, the only campaign that truly has a real agenda that works for every single student in this room, and every single student who's going to be here at CSU, who's going to be in this room, and every student who will eventually leave CSU, because that is what student government is about. We're here to make real change. We have the ability to make real change. And under the Vega Hill administration, that's exactly what's going to happen. You have to put your trust and faith into the Vega Hill administration to understand that we care about you and that we want to hear your voice, so that when we are making decisions, you guys continue to be at the forefront of our vision, no matter what the decision we're making or the room that we're in. Because no matter what, we will always keep it in the back of our mind that we are here for students and only students. Thank you.
All right, we will now begin audience questions. Please be mindful of our ground rules established at the beginning of the debate and keep your question as concise as possible and relevant to these elections. We have a long line, so if someone asks your same question, please sit down so we can ensure to move through everyone. I'm going to reiterate our ground rules just for both our candidates and our question askers. Please be respectful to the candidates when asking a question and do not make any accusations of any candidate. Please refrain from using explicit language, and please do not disclose any personal information you may have about a candidate, as this is a professional debate. I would like to remind everyone that if these ground rules are broken, we reserve the right to move on to the next question asker. You will have 30 seconds to ask your question, and the candidates will have 90 seconds to answer. You may begin.
For the last 3 years, there's been a part of the Senate that's been pushing a bill that would limit that would put a limit on terms. In the last couple of weeks, that bill was finally passed, only to be vetoed by yourself, Mr. Nunley. Would you care to explain this decision, and what would the three of you do as president to limit your own power?
Would you like to? Okay.
Yeah, Estevan, you can start.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think term limits are absolutely necessary. Let's think about it. If you're here to get a bachelor's degree, typically you're here for 4 years, maybe 5. When you have an ASCSU president who is already running for a second term, that's 2 years out of those 4 years. That means that your time here at CSU, you have had the same president for 50% of your tenure here at CSU. That matters, and that absolutely needs to change, and it has changed, thankfully. I was one of the senators who voted yes on that bill, and I'm very proud to vote that I have voted yes on that bill, because it's extremely important to me. It's extremely important to make sure that we have new perspectives on every single level, whether that's at the senator level, whether that's at the cabinet level, whether that's at the presidential and vice presidential level. That matters to me, and I know for a fact that if I'm elected, when I build my cabinet, I'm not gonna just hire my friends. I'm not gonna just hire those on the cabinet. I wanna make sure that we have people who have different perspectives from me, so that when I'm making a decision, I am fully informed. And that is absolutely what matters to me in the Vega Hill administration. Thank you for the question.
I will say I share the same sentiments as Mr. Vega, just because I do believe that leadership needs to change, especially whenever you are on college for 4 to 6 years and then you go off into the world and get a job. Term limits are essential because we need to make sure that students are getting opportunities in these positions. And I also think that if you are president, then you would want to mentor the next group of generations to be able to have administrations not only have change in one administration, but have rolling over. Someone brought up U+2, and I want to say that Nick DeSalvo did get that in his administration completely passed. But that was a 10+ year project that so many people poured their heart and soul into. That was not one administration that just got it passed. That was over many, many different administrations, which means that when leadership changes, when we're able to have term limits for only 1 year, then we can also have mentorship through all of these different administrations. I think that is truly what ASCSU is all about. If we want to have student leaders leave CSU really with the mentorship and guidance, we have to have term limits. So thank you for your question.
these things are important, and I love having these conversations. What I'll say though is that I don't think that I could willingly support this measure simply because that there are students who currently have the ability to vote for their elected representatives that they choose as they desire. On the basis of that, that is not a vote that I could take a stance against. I think of one day in the future when my little sister, who is currently 12, or not even my little sister, I have a cousin that goes here now, and I have a cousin that is coming here next year. When she gets here, it is my hope that she is afforded the same luxuries, the same privileges, and the same responsibilities as a student or as a voter to be as civically engaged as she wants to be on this campus. And when I think about those things, to me, it felt as if it could have bordered being a vote against students. And that is the matter of that's the matter of my rationale, is that I believe that students need that agency to show up and to express themselves and how they feel is best. It was not a vote against anything like on the basis of what you all are saying. Like I think that those things are also true, right? Like that regulation of power and those things should occur. I am all for that. It was not a vote against that or a veto against that. It was a veto to remain the powers that the students have as free as they are currently. And that's many of our fights. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. So last spring, I saw a student organization advertise an event by calling the trans identity propaganda. Their advertisements were not just on the plaza, but all over TVs in all sorts of campus buildings. And I was really, really, really disappointed with the response, not just from the people representing us, but from clubs, and it seemed like there was really no response to that. So I was wondering where you draw the line on free speech and hate speech, and how you plan to support minority students with the same vigor as CSU admin have protected people who call them propaganda.
Sorry, what's your name? This is a great question. What's your name?
Peyton.
My little sister's name is Peyton. So Peyton,
How does she spell it?
good evening, P-E-Y. Yes,
That's
all right.
nice.
Sorry, let me start my time. But thank you for this question, Peyton. Do you know what? The advancement and the issue of students of color on this campus have always been a huge priority area for me. And I say that to say not as like a just a sentiment that I give to you today, but that has been that's me. Aside from this, what I'll share though is that when we have these issues on campus, I want to recognize first that the responsibility to building a better campus here at CSU is a shared responsibility, and right now I don't think that accountability lives within all of us. And so our administration wants to really create the agency and student organizations and students themselves to bridge these gaps between our organizations and our ideologies and say, this is how you think, this is how I think. How do we partner together? Because this is our shared responsibility to create an environment that is welcoming and conducive to not only your educational experiences, but your social and vocational experiences at CSU. That's the core of this campaign, is that we believe in humanization, and we believe in creating spaces for students to be in community, to say, hey, this is what I'm doing in my org, this is what you're doing in your org, and if I need to hold you accountable, we need to create spaces for that from peer to peer to ensure that it is not like an attack on you and what you're doing or what you stand for, but instead messaging to say that I am, as your peer, holding you accountable because we have a shared responsibility and a commitment to this campus. And that's the student leaders that we want to mentor or see come out of CSU. That's the CSU that me and Abraham envision.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Peyton. Truly appreciate it, and this is very near and dear to my heart. Trans lives matter. They matter yesterday, they matter today, and they're going to matter in the future. I think as student government, this is where we need to step in. I don't think any single person should be in conversation where your identity is literally being stripped away from you. And I think that is our responsibility as your student government to have those conversations. And I agree that we need to humanize people. And I think that there needs to be conversations because learning, the way that we learn in the beginning of our years, like growing into ourselves, is crucial to where we stand with our ideology. And I think that that is a responsibility that we have to take on think propaganda against any person's identity is wrong, and it's hateful, and it's not standing up for our students. And if other students are perpetuating it, that is not something that we should stand for, in my opinion. And I think that another aspect of this is, I feel like most of the time whenever marginalized people are getting hated on, it's why don't you have those conversations? Why don't you try and bridge those gaps? But it's why don't we hold accountability for the people who are hating? Why do we not actually try and focus our attention on the matter of issue that you don't believe in someone's right to exist? And I think that the administration needs to do a better job at truly saying, they're gonna say that they're for all students, then they need to be for all students and not allow this propaganda to be happening.
Thank you.
Hi, Peyton. Look, as someone who comes from a Hispanic background, I know what it's like to be discriminated against. And I come from a place where it is predominantly white. And I understand what it's like to be isolated and feel like you're the only one there. But that is nothing compared to what trans people in the United States, and especially here on campus, face on a daily basis. And that absolutely needs to change. That matters to me. Because truthfully, if even one person feels like they're not comfortable, like they don't belong here, it's a fundamental failure, not only on the organization as a whole, but on our university as a whole, and as our human species as a whole. Because I truly believe that hate is taught. It is not inherited. You're not born with it. And so we understand that we want to create an inclusive environment, an inclusive campus that starts at the very bottom with every single student. Every single student understanding rights and understanding that every person deserves to have their spot here on campus. Just as I mentioned in my opening statement, I know that when you come from a background where you seem like you're the only one with that identity, and you come into a place where you seem like you're isolated, it's hard. It's hard. And so that is a top priority of the Vega Hill administration, to make sure that every single student on this campus understands from a fundamental basis that they belong on this campus. And I truly am extremely sickened, and it breaks my heart to hear that something like that is even happening on our campus, but it's real. And it happens every single day, and it's not something that we can just shy away from. These are conversations that need to be had. And so I really appreciate your question. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening. So many promises have been made about new programs, and while they are all very exciting, I'm curious as how they will be funded. So how do you plan to fund these programs next year, given that our Student Fee Review Board will have sent in final funding far before you have entered office, as well as the majority of these programs that you guys have talked about are not related within ASCSU, they are outside organizations?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an incredible question. And that's something that my vice president and I have talked about a lot. And it's actually extremely awesome to know that a student knows how SFRB works. And that's incredible. Because you're right. If I'm elected in office, that budget will be set. That is why we have already made a plan to make sure that we create a cabinet that is smaller, to make sure that we have efficiency going on within the executive branch, and use that money that we saved with having unnecessary roles, or roles that can be combined, to pay for things like one of my initiatives that has become very popular, which is RamWeb on Thursdays. We know that RamWeb on Thursdays is extremely expensive, and that's a great question to ask. How are we going to pay for it? And that's one thing that I truly think that separates me between the other candidates, is that we have a real actionable plan that we plan to accomplish and implement when we're in office. And that's exactly what I talked about. And that's exactly why I know that those plans that we already created when it comes to downsizing the cabinet and using that money to pay for things is extremely important, because we can make empty promises all the time. You know what I mean? But we're not going to, and we haven't, and we absolutely will never start. So that's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Alex. One thing that I think is very hard with this budget is that we are in a budget deficit. Budgets are getting cut left and right on every single level. And I think that is something that we need to take into account with what we are promising. A lot of the things that me and Ben have promised within working with Rams Against Hunger or parking has not been fully money related. And that is because we need to see that budget. We need to see where the money what money we have, where the money is going to be going for. One thing that we have taken account, though, is that we do fund Rams Against Hunger. And I think that strengthening certain programs will be essential. Also adding in a food drive every month that ASCSU provides other King Supers or Walmarts will also be essential to cutting cost on spending for Rams Against Hunger, but then also getting help from our community. Fort Collins has one of the highest income count. Sorry. I'm forgetting the word. I'm not gonna lie. But Fort Collins is very rich, okay? We have a lot of people with money here and a lot of people who are alumni. And I know that they're going to want to support their fellow Rams. Another thing is parking. We have not promised that we're going to fund or cut parking costs because we can't. We need to make sure that we know what money we have in order to actually provide the things that we want.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to acknowledge that to know Alex is to know he's going to ask a good question. But here's what I want to say is that the Nunley Mapatano campaign is not promising what's not possible. That's the first thing. And that as we talk about things like the like Ram Ride or like on Thursdays, these are things and efforts that we've started this year. Like these are conversations that we've started having with Lindsay Mason and off-campus life this year. This program would take about I'm looking at the numbers, it's $59,341.92 to fund Ram rides with the addition on Thursdays. That's a large amount of money to add to anybody's budget right now, seeing that we're already in a budget deficit. The places that we'd make these funds up, I don't know where they come in, if it's tuition or where else, but these are realities that exist for students. Here's what I'll say, though, as we talk about what's possible for our campaigns and the different promises that we make. The Nunley Mapatano campaign just recently is working with the same lawyer that I do my LLC, the contract and does everything with my LLC with, to start a foundation. Because what the university won't fund, we want to fund. And so we want to start a foundation where we can reach out to community donors and we can reach out to the alums and the folks that we know to donate to student initiatives that are imperative and things that students want to see on campus. These are articles of incorporation that are being filed right now for the Quinton Foundation to do these efforts for students. So this is our plan and how we plan to subsidize some of those costs, because certain things the university won't fund, and we realize that we have to have external entities in ways that students can benefit students.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Okay, you are all amazing leaders on campus and candidates running for president, so you probably would be well aware of an ever-growing movement on campus to divest from weapons manufacturers who directly profit from the war crimes funded in part or in whole by the United States tax dollars. What do you have to say to students who might question your decision-making or ability to represent them with your alignment or lack of alignment with certain organizations who profit from said war crimes?
This borders personal, but I'll answer it. What I'll share, though, is that I think that it's imperative to note that in any conversation, right, like who I am and my character and right is right and wrong being wrong, remain steadfast, right? And so when these conversations are held and when we're able to discuss matters of where CSU is aligned, these are conversations and truths that we can hold across the board. These things do remain steadfast because right is right and wrong is wrong. And these are things that are noted in every conversation that I've ever had. When asked about how I feel about these things, or when asked about what I believe the university should be doing, those are responses that are granted, right? I think that it's imperative, though, how we look at and treat our campus administration and our campus partners, because that is what they are. These are folks who are making decisions on behalf of students that we do have to take with a certain diligence. There's a certain strategy that needs to be deployed to get what students want to see. And that's been a part of my method. That's been a part of my ministry as long as I've known it. So thank you.
I think this is a really great question. I think within this, there's a bunch of layers that we have to unpack. And firstly is that when we support these companies, when we support these institutions allowing and sending bombs that are killing children, they are killing children and wiping out people, it is not right. When we have our 5 pillars of excellence at CSU, we need to make sure that we are actually following them. When we say advocacy as one of our pillars, that means that we need to advocate for what is right. And I have a strong sense of what is good and what is bad. And I don't completely like that because it paints things in a very black and white perception. But in this case, when we are supporting these companies, it is truly supporting institutions that are not doing right by children. And I think that is something that we need to take a really big look within ourselves. And I agree that we can't just pull these companies out. We need to replace them with something. But we are all smart people. I know that we can find different ways to be able to get the same things that we get from these companies. These are not the only ones that provide these things. And so I think that is something that we need to take into account whenever we bring up divesting from these companies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madeline, that is an incredible question. And I have to say that supporting these companies is supporting the death of thousands and millions of children in Gaza, in Iran currently, and it's supporting the continued genocide that's going on in Gaza. That's exactly what that means. And let's try not to paint it as anything else other than that. And we understand that. And so we also know that if elected, we will be the representative voice of the collective student body. And we also know that, and we do not take that lightly, which means that when we have student organizations who are deeply passionate and deeply involved coming to Senate every night, or a good majority of our sessions, and pleading to us to do something about it, it's about damn time we do something about it. And we go to CSU administration and make sure that we actually hear students, because this is not something that's new. This is not something that is just coming up. This is something that has been long asked for from our students, to stop supporting these companies. And that is something the Vega Hill administration will do. We will stop supporting these companies because, as I said earlier, in doing so is supporting the death of millions of children. Even though it's across the pond, those are still human lives. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Hello. My question is, what are your top experiences that you think make you qualified for this?
That's a really good question because, when you're running for things like this, you have to ask yourself, am I even right for the job? And truthfully, that's something that I ask myself a lot. I truly believe that the quality and the best characteristic that I hold is to be able to bring leadership out in others. Me being president, that means absolutely nothing to me if I can't uplift student voices, specifically those who are surrounded by me. I'm not going to surround myself with people who have the same ideology, who have the same beliefs, because then you get nowhere. I want to surround myself with people who are also leaders on this campus and develop them in a way where they don't just care about themselves or their legacy or their title or where they're going to go, that they care about others around them, because that's who I am as a fundamental person. That's why I plan to go to medical school and dedicate 15 years of my life so that I can serve every single person that I can when I'm a physician. That is fundamental to who I am, and it's also fundamental to who I am as a leader. If I'm not uplifting someone else as a leader, then I'm not a leader at all. And that's something that's extremely key, both to myself and Miriam, and that's going to be fundamental to how we work and structure the Vega Hill administration. Great question. Thank you.
I know that I may stutter or I may not speak the most eloquently as my other peers on here, but I have put in the work in leadership. I am currently the president of the Body Project. I serve on UFAB, which is the University Fee Advisory Board Committee for students, where we get to fund projects and construction projects here on campus that we need. I am a senator for natural sciences. I go to my college council, I interact, I spread the word, I try to get people in, because that is what leadership is about. It's elevating other people around you. It's not meant to be something where you are only the leader. Leaders have so many people behind you. Like, truly, your team is something that you can't take for granted, because you wouldn't be the leader that you are without the people surrounding with you. I also am a Key Plus mentor, where I absolutely love. That is something that truly has put so much joy and love into my heart and my life. I am an immigrant from Mexico, and that is another thing that I take into account whenever I lead. I have seen things that have been honestly very hard, especially during this time. It is something that I will never take for granted. But truly, that is what becomes in me with leadership, is that I do value people. I value people on a deeper level.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This question is incredible, and it catches me at a really vulnerable time. I'd also say that, well, I'm not going to read down a resume for you today, but what I will say is that the role that has prepared me the most for, or the thing that has prepared me the most for this role is being Jacqueline Barnes's grandson. And I say this because my grandmother is a saint. She has quite literally changed the perception and the way in which I think about love and what it means, like when you show up for others and to love on somebody. My earliest recollection of love is my grandmother. She never missed a day of pickup. She never missed a day of pickup, was always outside, and would be the front car, in the car in the very frontest of the line at Ponderosa Elementary every day. And one day, her car battery died, and I love cars. Our neighbor had this key lime car. It was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I see this car in front of the pickup line one day. It's the first car in the line. And even though her battery died, she showed up and still made it happen and was still the first person in line. I say that this catches me at a very vulnerable time because I think about the compassion required and the empathy required to be in these roles. The reflection, the introspection that is required to sit down and sit across from somebody and say, you don't like me and I understand why, is what has prepared me most for these roles. And it catches me at a vulnerable time because my grandma's 70th birthday just passed on March 3rd. And as we've been going through this week, I'm going home a lot every day, and I'm like, wow, I cannot believe the things that people are saying or how they are treating Jacqueline's grandbaby.
Thank you.
Thank you, though.
Due to time constraints and our friends in the CTV studio, unfortunately, we're only able to take 2 more questions, so we can take you 2. I'm very sorry about that. All right, so we'll take these 2. Everyone else, if you don't mind having a seat just to clear the aisles, would be super great. Awesome, thank you. All right, go ahead.
Good evening. So my question is to all of you. We've talked a lot about transparency and student engagement. This is a little different for incumbent, of course. But what are specific actionable policies you have to increase engagement, and specifically to Nunley, but it goes to all of you, how are you going to change your policy, and how do CSU students, how can they trust you to actually do that, given you've had a year to implement your agenda?
I think that policies, thank you for this question, this is dope. I think that policies can also be adaptive to what students need. ASCSU functions to stand in this gap for resources of students, and that's what the Nunley Mapatano campaign is. We're building bridges to these resources and not serving as a barrier to stand in between students and these resources. And so things like our administration office hours bridge that gap to transparency to ensure that students get the answers directly, that from the words of their mouth, from the words of the administrator's mouth, of how we're making these decisions, and I think that's imperative. And the second thing to this is how we do student engagement, right? I think that ASCSU needs to do a better job. We need to get out of our offices. We need to go to the club and organization visits, and these are things that are already true about my work now, but I think that it needs to show up in everybody's work in ASCSU. I talk about this a lot in one-off conversations with my colleagues, but the responsibility and the state of our organization is a shared responsibility of every single member of ASCSU. That's our job. If students don't know something about ASCSU, that's on us, and I fully own that, right? And so what you don't know about ASCSU this year that we do, I own that. That is a mishap and an oversight on my part. What I will say, though, is that students can trust this because this is who I continually show up as. Student leaders and students in general on this campus know that I am good for it if you need it. I am good for it, not even if you need it, if you want it. And I'm there, and I'm present. And so those are things and commitments that I can make to you today because that is steadfast in my character and who I am.
Thank you.
So with transparency, I do want to highlight that both Ben and I were writers on the free speech resolution. We wanted to have administration actually tell us why they wanted the policy changed and why they enforced it in August whenever students just came back. They did not answer us, and that is okay, because we will keep pushing for transparency, and we will keep pushing the administration to ensure that student voices are at the forefront. And one of the policies that me and Ben both would like to initiate is, again, where are students serving on our committees and on our boards? Whenever students have a voting position on these committees then they can have a voice actually present at the table. Another thing with this is having all of the emails of those students who are serving on there. So if a student has a concern about parking, which is very, very, a lot of students have that. So I feel like when we can give them that email and then they can email that person to either meet or do whichever thing that they want to do and bring up that concern so that student can actually be where they're voting, have that concern be brought up. Another thing that both Ben and I would like to do is do presentations for the job descriptions in our executive branch. A lot of students do not know that the executive branch has jobs.
Thank you.
And I think that's essential to building out a good executive cabinet.
Thank you.
Truth be told, it brings me so much joy that you're bringing this up. The fact that you are asking the candidates, what is your real actionable agenda? What is something you actually plan to accomplish? And that's exactly the right questions to be asking, especially when you're electing people to such a powerful position that truly can make a lot of decisions and sway a lot of people. This is exactly what the Vega Hill administration is about. It's about making real change. It's not about throwing out empty promises or buzzwords. It's about making real change. And so when it comes to transparency and advocacy as a whole, we know that our previous efforts and the previous perspective at which we've looked at when we're trying to get students engaged just simply doesn't work. And that's exactly why the Vega Hill administration plans to meet students where they are at. And I've mentioned this again, but I'm going to say it over again. We're going to meet students in the library, the LSC, the dining hall, the residence halls, because we need to know what they want. We cannot represent them. We cannot be their voice we cannot be the voice for the collective student body if we don't know what students want. That is a top priority for the Vega Hill administration, and it's going to get done. And I really appreciate you asking that question because that's what matters. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, candidates. As a candidate running for presidency, you would be aware of the international use of weapons manufactured at Woodward here in town. What do you have to say to students, especially students of color, whose families are being bombed as we speak? Who question your ability to represent them by choosing to contribute your efforts in our community to Woodward in your upcoming internship, Mr. Nunley?
Is this a question relating to the candidate's professional skills?
Yes.
Then all candidates can answer the question.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I want to make it clear that I'm not the one with the Woodward internship, and I want to make sure everyone knows that in here. So now I want to be clear, that is not a dig on Mr. Nunley. I deeply value Jakye. However, it's truly something that we need to care about, especially when there are so many lives being affected. There are so many children who are being killed and slaughtered. So why do I have the opportunity, as a Hispanic man, as a man of color, why do I have the opportunity to sit up here and run for president when there are people right across the ocean being killed by bombs that are made by this company? That is unfair, and that is absolutely going to change. And I've said it again, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Vega Hill administration absolutely will not support those companies. That is a top priority because we care not just about the students here at CSU. We care about everyone. That's who I am as a person. That's exactly, I've said it before, that's exactly why I want to dedicate 15 years of my life to becoming a doctor, because I care about every single person, whether they agree with me or whether they don't, whether they look like me or whether they don't. And that matters deeply to Miriam and I, and that is exactly how we're going to run our administration. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. I'd like to remind everyone that questions and answers relating to personal qualifications or public jobs on a resume are allowed, but any accusations of any involvement with anything is where we're going to cut the mic. So just please remember that as we're making our statements and questions. As of right now, everything has still been above board and germane and pertinent to this job description. So I just wanted to address that. Please carry on.
every single person's liberation is tied and interconnected together. The bombing that is happening in Palestine and Iran is tied together, and we cannot stand for it. Woodward, there are actual pictures that does have bombs that says Fort Collins. That is something that we can't deny. There's literal pictures of it. But Ben and I are going to divest from these companies, but again, we can't divest without having a replacement of companies that will do everything that Woodward does, and HP, and there's one more, I am forgetting it right now. We need to make sure that we have a true solid action plan. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that we do. I have not done that research quite yet, but I promise that we will find replacements for these companies, because that is essential to, again, holding ourselves accountable to our land-grant institution as well. If we are going to sit here and say that we are for all students, students have family members in these places. That is something we cannot deny. That is something that we must think about whenever we are supporting these companies. So thank you.
Thank you.
The statements that you all have made tonight are none that I disagree with. What I'll say, though, is that it is imperative that when we talk about these companies and the things in our world that are of poor manner, or that are injustices that happen everywhere, I want to say that I'm working at HR function at Woodward this summer, and the function is change management. And that it is unbeknownst to me to think that change will ever happen in these spaces if nobody with good intentions or nobody with a nice heart ever gets into these rooms and these spaces and these buildings and these companies to change those same things. And it's an integral part of my mission that I leave every space better than I found it. And that's just who I am. That has been an integral part about my ministry since I've been in high school. And so the change management function that I'll be practicing this summer and learning what those skills mean, thank you.
Reminding
and learning
everyone in the
what those
audience to
skills
please be
mean
respectful.
is imperative to who I am as a person, to ensure that not only things change, but that they look better than when they came in. And if nobody's ever in those spaces to change it, if we stay away from the spaces that don't serve people, if we stay away from the spaces that are perpetrating injustices that we see in the world, those spaces will never change. And then those injustices will also remain the same. It is my hope that I get into those spaces and that those systems change and that those things stop when they meet me. And so thank you so much. I love this question. We've talked about this a lot this week, so thank you again.
I'm sorry, your change management serves to create bombs.
Thank you. We're going to have to move on. Thank you. All right. All right. All right, everyone. Thank you. Just to close, so that there is a chance for candidates to reiterate any points that they might have made, we are going to give each candidate to speak on behalf of themselves and their vice president 45 seconds of closing statement as to why they should be elected the next president and vice president of ASCSU. Mr. Vega, we will begin with you. There's a button. Got it?
Well, first of all, thank you all so much for being here. I know that it's a late night and it's also a Thursday, so I know you guys probably all have something to be here, somewhere to be and something to do. I want to make it clear that the Vega Hill administration, from the very beginning, has always thought about every single one of you guys in this room. And that's exactly how we're going to run our administration. We will not, our support for each and every single every single one of you guys will continue to be unwavering. Whether that's implementing the policies that we talk about and making sure that we do not deliver empty promises or just throw buzzwords at you. And I want to make sure that everyone in this room knows that we care about every single person in this room. Whether you vote for us or not, whether you plan to support us or not, we will still govern as a president and vice president for every single person. Additionally, I want to make...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Unbought and unbossed. That means that we are not bought and we are not bossed by anyone. We also do not think of leadership as a hierarchy. Our work will not begin or will not end or begin with a title. We are doing the work right now and we will continue to do the work no matter what. you will vote for me and Ben because we will create true change on this campus. And that's not just words that I'm saying. These are action plans that we do have. We want to elevate every single student voices. We want to hear and connect with every single student. That is truly something that me and Ben have at the heart of our campaign. So thank you so much and have a great night. Buenas noches. Gracias a todos.
All right, thank you, everyone. Closing with Mr. Nunley.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm supposed to be broken promises or the other term that you've been using all night, but what I will say is that the Nunley Mapatano campaign has a plan not only for your term now and for what you're doing right now in your present state, but what it looks like when you graduate and you leave this university and you have responsibilities out in this world. That is who Abraham Mapatano is, and that is who Jakye Nunley is, and that's how we'll show up for students, because that's what we've always done. The last thing I'll say is that, this is my second time running for president. I'm about to have a good time, too. I've been working on my time to build bridges for a better CSU, and it's time to. And it's time to. Thank you all.
All right. Our time is now running down, but I would like to personally thank each and every candidate and audience member who have participated in the debates tonight. Please remember that voting opens on RamWeb on Monday, March 9th, and is open until 4 p.m. March 11th, so be sure to cast your vote. Sending it back to Madison in the CTV studio. Thank you all for watching, and good night.